Welcome to Once Upon a Coin, documenting the ongoing history of blockchain and cryptocurrency. And as always, I'm your storyteller, Jason Cassidy. Today's story has us continuing our journey through the historical timeline of crypto, year by year. When we last left off, the industry was still suffering from somewhat of a hangover due to the crazy price action that took place in the Great Bull Market of 2017. But as you and I know, all hangovers eventually wear off. And in crypto, when they do wear off, watch out. Big things were brewing in the industry with major institutional players getting involved and a whole new era of blockchain tech taking center stage in the form of NFTs, DeFi, stablecoins, and the metaverse. If you want to know what happened once all these massive innovations were ready for prime time, then you better buckle up, because a new decade was upon us, and it brought along with it some ludicrous events you won't believe. This is the story of crypto in 2020.
Sun cast a shadow, a digital line is coming over the mountain and over your mind. Double down your Bitcoin, hang on for the ride. We're moving into the future, one block at a time. One block at a time.
This was one crazy year across the entire planet. And while many will attribute that to the COVID-19 pandemic, crypto had its own ups and downs to deal with. January started off relatively tame though, with a lot of people beginning to get excited about the pending Bitcoin halving event that would take place later that spring. And as far as price goes, Bitcoin started off the year trading in the $7,000 range. Many people were speculating on how much the price would go up in anticipation of the halving, with some believing that the event was already priced into Bitcoin, and others believing that we were on the cusp of another massive breakout. And while this was being discussed, the drama from the ongoing Satoshi Nakamoto mystery that had now fully engulfed Craig Wright picked up again. This time it had to do with his now deceased former business partner, David Kleiman. Where this gets rather messy though is when we factor in that it was actually David's brother, Ira, who was involved in the court case. Kleiman was suing for half of a $8.86 billion war chest, or 1.1 million Bitcoin, thought to be part of a trust called the Tulip Trust. A judge had already ruled on this a year prior and had found Craig Wright to be in contempt of court. However, now a new judge was looking at things and they were seeing it a little bit differently. Her view was that the facts that were previously established were now in dispute, giving impetus for a new trial to kick off on the matter. The wheels of justice move very, very slowly, so this would take a long time to get resolved. But resolved it eventually would be. However, we'll circle back to this a little bit later. February wasn't exactly a record setter in terms of blockchain news, but as March approached, something very big was about to happen. As the world was slowly coming to grips with the reality that a pandemic was taking place, the markets reacted as you'd probably expect them to. They freaked out. March started off fine enough, with Bitcoin moving up to almost hit $9,000 a coin by March 2nd. But by the middle of the month, the price had been cut in half, dropping down to $5,000 a coin by March 16th. Everything was in a tailspin now, and with crypto being a very new and very risky asset class, it sold off in rapid succession. In fact, this got so bad across the entire planet that March 16th was dubbed as Black Monday. Despite the absolute misery that the markets were experiencing, there are now new many trends in crypto that were emerging. DeFi, or decentralized finance, was one of them. And to start off the year, the total amount of money locked into DeFi apps was around $658 million. By the time the year was over though, that figure would be much, much higher. Yield farming was quickly becoming a common term within the crypto lexicon. So while there was more than enough bad news within crypto to be bearish about, there were signs that a new wave of blockchain tech was taking over. And by the time May approached, let me tell you, things really started to heat up. On May 7th, billionaire hedge fund owner and legendary investor Paul Tudor Jones shocked a lot of people in the traditional financial markets when he announced that he was investing into Bitcoin as an inflation hedge. His rationale behind the move? With all his experience, Jones felt that Bitcoin reminded him of the role that gold had played during the 1970s when the world was mired in economic trouble. Just a few days later, and Bitcoiners got more good news, the long-awaited halving event. which would see the ongoing issuance of new Bitcoin awarded in each block get chopped in half, going from 12.5 BTC per block to 6.25 BTC per block. Bitcoin was becoming provably more scarce, and in comparison to the US dollar and other fiat currencies that were printed out of thin air by central banks, often at the behest of governments, Bitcoin was looking pretty damn good. The halving event happens once every 4 years and was generally considered good news. But what came next wasn't so good. Telegram, the messaging app with over 300 million users globally, had announced their project to the world last year, which was called Ton. And of course, it came with its own token called Grams. Having already raised 1.7 billion US dollars, they were looking in pretty good shape. At least they were until the SEC, or the Securities and Exchange Commission, showed up. They claimed the Grams token was an unregistered security and were looking to halt the distribution of the token to its users. Once a federal court gave the regulatory agency backup to its claim, Telegram decided it was time to call it quits and formally announced that the project was dead. On May 12th, founder and CEO Pavel Durov addressed the public and went into the details behind why Telegram wasn't going to be getting into the crypto game after all. But despite the setback, the crypto markets were beginning to shake off the pandemic-induced sell-off that took place earlier that year, with Bitcoin coming close to breaking through the 5-figure threshold in USD by mid-May. The month of May was a pretty big one for crypto, and it had more in store for us because on May 26th, a new player was about to enter the scene. Polkadot, a project that specialized in allowing other blockchain networks to connect to each other without a third party involved, officially launched. Their currency was called DOT, and with the proliferation of other smart contract-based blockchains launching this decade, Polkadot would find themselves very busy, and thus would go on to become one of the most popular coins in the coming years. Over the summer months, Bitcoin eventually broke through the $10,000 threshold, offering some relief from all the financial hardship that the pandemic had introduced. Once August approached, the public got its first taste of what is arguably the most bullish publicly traded company in the world when it came to Bitcoin. And if you're really into crypto, then you already know that I'm talking about none other than MicroStrategy. Led by the outgoing and colorful Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy is a NASDAQ-listed business intelligence firm. As CEO, Saylor would go on to become one of the most vocal and notable proponents of Bitcoin. And in August, it was revealed that the company had acquired $250 million of the currency. This was announced on August 11th, and it was disclosed that Saylor had purchased 21,454 Bitcoin. That is a healthy stash right there. Saylor felt that the COVID-19 spending spree that governments were embarking upon would have a deprecating effect on fiat currencies. So for MicroStrategy, exchanging some US dollars for Bitcoin was simply a prudent investment. And in the years that followed, this would prove to be a very wise decision. In September, the world got introduced to another major player in the smart contract-based blockchain scene, and that player's name was Avalanche. Led by Emin Gün Sirer, Avalanche launched on September 23rd and would offer users a host of cool and rather useful applications in the realm of DeFi and smart contracts. It's a proof-of-stake blockchain, and the native currency's ticker symbol is AVAX. Much like Polkadot earlier in the year, Avalanche would go on to become a force to be reckoned with in the crypto industry. As the seasons changed from summer to fall, the temperature got colder outside. But in the crypto sphere, it was quite the opposite. Things were just beginning to heat up. Bitcoin was now trading at 11,000 US dollars per coin, and Ether wasn't doing too shabby either, rapidly approaching 400 US dollars each. One of the reasons for things turning around in the sector may have been influenced by the fact that one of the biggest payment platforms on earth was now fully embracing crypto. On October 21st, PayPal announced they'll be allowing customers to pay for goods and services in cryptocurrencies at any of the merchants connected to their massive network. There's such a thing as good news, and then there are moments like this that serve as more of a statement and act of validation. You would now be hard-pressed to deny crypto's relevance to the world when top payment giants like PayPal were joining forces with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other top chains. Before the month was over, some more history was about to be made. And out of all the places it could happen, the Bahamas was a source of it. And that's because on October 20th, they became the first country on Earth to launch their own CBDC, or central bank digital currency, which they dubbed the Sand Dollar. Many people are rightfully leery about CBDCs, including yours truly. But it was an historically relevant event and nonetheless did serve as a testament to the power of blockchain technology. Over the next few years, more countries would follow suit and announce their own plans for a central bank digital currency. And virtually all of them would declare that if it was ever going to happen, it would be with the help of blockchain and in the form of a cryptocurrency. Before the end of 2020, we saw a Goliath of the industry make a power move that made headlines in virtually every country. It was revealed that Coinbase was preparing an IPO, or initial public offering, of its company. To accomplish this, they would need to get the blessing of the notoriously stingy SEC, or Securities and Exchange Commission. But if they could, it would mean that investors of all types could now buy shares in Coinbase and hold a piece of the action. This was yet another step towards legitimization of crypto from the traditional financial sector. But even without this, crypto was producing some crazy stats that were forcing people to take the industry seriously now. DeFi, or decentralized finance, was now exploding in popularity. And by the time the year came to a close, a staggering $15 billion was tied up in DeFi apps. Users were making a crypto-based income and proving to doubters that there was a growing appetite to get a return on your money without having to go through a bank. And right before Christmas, one of the longest-standing names in crypto found themselves on the SEC's naughty list, and instead of a lump of coal, they found an enforcement letter in their stocking. Ripple, the company behind the popular cryptocurrency XRP, was being sued by the SEC for the same thing the SEC seemingly sues everyone in crypto for: the selling of an unregistered security. Oh, and what about Bitcoin's performance to close out the year? Well, it went absolutely bonkers, hitting $29,000 per coin. And Ether followed suit, saying goodbye to 2020 by reaching $730 per coin. It was now official. All of the innovation, institutional investment, and support from the retail sector had finally managed to trigger a new bull market. And this is what led to what is arguably the most explosive year ever in crypto, which is 2021. It was a hell of a time to be alive, because this bull market was different from all others in that it had both the fungible and non-fungible side powering it into the stratosphere. We're going to take a look at exactly what happened here with the next episode in our series, where NFTs are finally ready to take center stage. So be sure to check out the story of crypto in 2021. I hope you enjoyed today's stroll down memory lane. Until next time, have fun and enjoy life, my friends. I'll be back soon with another incredible story to tell you.